I welcome you to the first historic clothing fashion show, sponsored by the museum and organized and directed by Jane Shepherd, director and curator of the museum. We are indeed fortunate to have all these treasures from the past and even some from the present being preserved for us at our museum. Today, I'm wearing a 20s costume, and how could you ever guess? With a black, it's French lace overdress over a black satin underdress dating from the late 1920s. The overdress has no line with a V-neck and a waistline with a V-neck in front and a V-neck in back. The skirt is gored in a most unusual way. And of course, the red boa and the headpiece speak for themselves. 1920s, clever. This microphone is not where it needs to be. For years, man has been fascinated with time travel. H.G. Wells wrote about a time machine that transported people back to earlier years. Hollywood has capitalized on that theme also with the popular movies Back to the Future and Somewhere in Time. And every week, Scott Bakula turns a quantum leap into another era. So this morning, join us as we take our quantum leap back into time. We will look at vintage and replica clothing which represents Middle Tennessee history. Many of the pieces are property of the Sumner County Museum, and many others have been graciously loaned to us, especially for this show. Part one of the show begins with the early days up to the Civil War period. When the early hunters, trappers, and settlers came to Middle Tennessee, they weren't concerned with fashion. They were concerned with survival and usefulness. That's why the earliest garments we see today are made of warm materials of simple design. No one knows what Thomas Spencer was wearing that night he spent in a tree out near Castellan Springs, but we can get a pretty good idea of what people wore in those days by looking at our first group of historic outfits. Don Wright is wearing a long hunter's outfit. The coat is patterned after a mid-1700s frontier coat and is made of buckskin. It is fringed and is mid-thigh length. It is handmade and sewn not with thread, but with sinew. Mr. Wright made this garment himself, working steadily for some 3 weeks. With the coat, he is wearing buckskin trousers and leggings. Show us those leggings, Don. On his feet are moccasins that are center-seamed, which was the popular design for the East. Western moccasins are made differently. You will notice that the Eastern frontiersmen wore no beads, unlike the Western frontiersmen. Also, you will not see a coonskin cap on Mr. Wright's head, as you might if this were a Hollywood movie. Most frontiersmen wore tricorn hats or flop hats. Okay, Don, put your tricorn hat on. Oh, okay. He was wearing a tricorn hat today. And no frontiersman would be without his rifle, powder horn, or shot pouch, since those were essential for survival out there in the wilds. Mr. Wright's are museum quality pieces, and he treasures them. Jerry Belote is also dressed for the frontier. Jerry? He's wearing cotton knee breeches and a muslin shirt that's about to burn up because it's so hot under all that. A wool waistcoat, brown stockings, and center-seamed moccasins. His hat is a black brim felt hat, which was frock coat is of linen and cotton and is an accurate reproduction of a rifleman's coat. With him, Mr. Belote carries the essentials for a pioneer man. He's loaded, folks. He has his powder horn and rifle, his canteen, his knife, his belt, a pouch for carrying items to build a fire, and 2 bags for holding supplies. He's going to get those animals he shoots and put them in there. He is well equipped for survival out in the Belote's Bend area. Thank you, Terry. Robin Smith is our pioneer woman today. Thanks to garments loaned by Mansfield Ford in Goodlettsville, pioneer women wore simple dresses which they could make easily with long seams without complicated patterns. These items are made of cotton and of wool, 2 of the most popular fabrics. The skirt has a drawstring waist, for buttons were very difficult to get on the frontier. The blouse also is easy to get into, for it pulls over the head and tucks tightly under the skirt. The vest was laced together, and an ever-present apron completes her outfit. On her feet, you will see the popular Brogan, a very sturdy shoe. The women usually wore their hair long, but covered it with a dust cap so that they didn't have to wash their hair so often, and we didn't find a dust cap. Robin, if you'll put your cape on, to shield herself against the elements, the pioneer woman might have worn a wool cape like this, which has a hood and is fastened with a hook. Capes have been fashionable for years, but our pioneer women weren't worried about fashion. They just wanted to survive. And what frontier would be complete without the blacksmith and his apprentice? And here we have Billy Green and his 6-year-old son, Wesley. They're here today to show you the blacksmith of the early 1800s. Mr. Green is wearing a wool hat and vest with simple cloth pants and shirt. The most important item the smith wore was the apron, and Mr. Green's is like most. It was torn to fit the smith. His shoes are typical of the period in that they have square toes and buckles. He is carrying authentic tools, including a small anvil. Come up here just a little bit closer, Mr. Green. Show them that anvil. And a traveler. Do you know what a traveler is? It's the blacksmith's measuring tool. This wheel with a handle has inches marked out on the circle, 24 of them. Wesley Green is dressed as the blacksmith's apprentice. His clothes are a simple design out of muslin, and he's wearing moccasins. He's ready for his chores as an apprentice. Today he might help the smith get water, hold the items on the forge, and clean up the shop. Whatever he does, he is learning the trade at a very early age. Thank you. The black lace mantilla is worn by Amy Martin. This has a most interesting story. Early tradition holds that this mantilla belonged to Rachel Jackson. It was said that she came to Gallatin to visit friends while her husband Andrew was here on business. And then when she got ready to leave, whether by accident or intentionally, she left this lace mantilla with her friends. It has since passed through several generations and was recently given to the museum by Brodie Shaw. Not all was muslin and buckskin in these early days, as we shall see from our next items, graciously loaned today from Trousdale Place. On October 16, 1849, William and Annie Bug Trousdale traveled to Nashville in Andrew Jackson's carriage for the inauguration of Trousdale as governor of Tennessee. There they were met by a large, enthusiastic crowd. But because there had been a cholera epidemic in the summer which killed hundreds of people, the inaugural ball was not held and the ceremony was kept simple. McKinley Methodist Church served as the site of the inauguration. And for that day, Mrs. Trousdale wore a very special dress. Today, it is being worn by Bobby Ramsey. The top is ecru lace with a high neck, as was the style of the day. It is trimmed with applique bows and dots of velvet. The puff sleeves fit tightly around the forearm and are trimmed with bows. The waist is boned and is made of the same silken fabric which is used for the skirt. The skirt complements the top by its construction of the same blue silk as the waistband of the top. Come back down this way a little bit first, darling. By the same blue silk as the waistband of the top and by its lace trim. Isn't that exquisite? John Creasy is dressed in the clothing which Governor Trousdale wore to the inauguration. It consists of a black, formal wool swallowtail coat, a vest and trousers with black satin stripe down the side. His top hat is black beaver. We are extremely grateful to Trousdale Place for lending us these very special, valuable items, authentic items. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Jackson. In the middle of the 19th century, women's styles included the large, Trousdale, I said Jackson. In the middle of the 19th century, women's styles included the large sweeping skirts, which required the rather cumbersome hoop skirts, as we see in our next garment. Donna Wilson is wearing a blue printed calico one-piece dress. It is an exact replica of an authentic garment made between 1848 and 1855. This simple dress features a gathered bodice with early regatta or funnel-shaped sleeves. The sleeves are trimmed with pleated fabric ruching. The skirt is attached to the bodice using partridge pleating, a typical sewing technique of the period. Her bonnet is of drawn silk, so named because fabric was drawn over reeding to give it its shape. With her mother is Alexis. She is wearing black and white clothing, typical of the children's clothing in the 1860s. It features a boat neck, gathered yoke, and waistband. The black and white color combination was appropriate for the children who were in mourning at the time. Thank you. Karen Crocker is wearing an 1857. She's not here. Thank you. Clothing in the middle of the 19th century was modeled after the fashion on the continent and in England, and the fashionable styles were very confining. Women were corseted and petticoated. Men were collared and stiff. And then came the Civil War, the most wretched period of our nation's history. Yet fashion made a statement. There also, as we see the uniform worn by our next model. These are the typical uniforms of Arby Nelson is wearing a Confederate soldier's uniform, which dates from a few years after the Civil War. It belonged to James Andrew Soper, who lived out on Coles Ferry Pike. Mr. Soper was a Confederate soldier, but never had a uniform until after the war, when the United Daughters of the Confederacy began making Union uniforms. Mr. Soper had 2 uniforms still, and this one was donated to the museum 2 years ago by Mr. Soper's grandson, James Andrew Soper Green, who lives in Texas, but makes an annual visit to the museum to see the uniform. This gray uniform, trimmed in yellow, also comes with the authentic pistol of the time and a cavalry sword. Harvey got a little ahead of us there. Then we have another one that is worn by Ronnie Steele, and this is a copy of an authentic Confederate uniform of the 9th Army of Tennessee, but doesn't it look real? Thank you so much. Unfortunately, as we all know, thousands died in the conflict, and the fashions of the day reflected the long period of mourning. Many people, particularly women, far from you then. Amanda Short is wearing a simple two-piece dress, which features a plain black skirt. The blouse is sewn with tucks in front and back. The back is also gathered at the waist in order to fit the woman very tightly. It has a tie sewn onto the back, which would have been brought to the front to secure the blouse and allow it to be tucked into the skirt. Although the dress is plain and the built-in petticoat is plain, women of these post-war days allowed themselves a little ruffle here and there. Our Lady is wearing another fancier petticoat with rows of stitching. On her head she's wearing a slanted bonnet, named because of the way it was made with thin wooden slats or pieces of cardboard which kept the bonnet stiff and shielded the wearer from the sun. Heather Collins is wearing another simply designed two-piece dress, but here the fabric is a little unusual. It is black on black, dotted cotton with simple sleeves which have banded cuffs. Those wide funnel-shaped sleeves we saw on the earlier gowns disappeared during the war. Women found they had too much work to do and the sleeves kept getting in the way. Hoop skirts had also disappeared by the 1870s. The skirt of this dress is a simple one. The collar on the dress is a plain, rounded one. With the dress, Heather wears a gingham apron of black and white and a black, wide-brimmed bonnet. Amy Shoemaker is wearing our third morning gown, but she's dressed a little more finely than our last mourner. Probably had a little more money. On her head, she wears a standard black lace veil, and around her shoulders, she wears a beaded shawl. This shawl is exquisite. The shawl is fully beaded, showing that even on mourning, one could be fancy and show her status in the community. Her two-piece dress, like the ones before it, is cotton with a plain skirt. The collar of this blouse has 2 rows of braid, and the detailing on the back of the blouse comes to a point in order to emphasize the tiny waist of the wearer. The sleeves are puffed. Underneath, she wears an additional petticoat, this time very ornate. The rows of tucking and embroidered ruffle and inserts also show the status of our wearer. Fashions of the later 19th century began to take on a more tailored look, and in many ways reflect the influence of the men's styles. Suits were actually introduced in the 1860s by designer John Redfern. They were tailored and yet remained the feminine look through braids and lace trim. Christina Nitsch is wearing a brown wool traveling suit dated from about the 1880s. It consists of a double-breasted jacket with peplums. The back of the jacket has a split tail and the collar is notched. The suit, you will notice, is tailored, but not without trim on both the skirt and the jacket. Thank you. Stephanie Redmond is also wearing a traveling suit. This one's a little more elegant than the previous one. Is she not elegant? The long, simple skirt is adorned with velvet braid, and the built-in petticoat is ruffled. The jacket also is decorated with braid, which matches the skirt. Notice the tassels on the front of the jacket for added decoration. Also on the jacket collar and on the wide cuffs is a lighter colored velvet with beading and lace. This garment, as were many in the 1880s, was designed to wear with a bustle. She's got a bustle on, girls. The bustle came and went in the latter period of the 19th century and completely disappeared at the turn of the century. The bustle, like the hoop skirt, provided many discomforting moments for their wearers. And we have a fun story to tell, so just stand there for a few minutes with that hat. I love the hat. Dean E.H. Hitchcock, grandfather of Jenny Thigpen, who, by the way, wrote our script for us today, tells an incident that happened when he was a boy in the 1800s. This is the story. My father, as a Methodist minister, often was called upon to baptize by immersion, even though he believed in sprinkling. One day we were gathered at the creek for the solemn ceremony, and Father led down into the water a young woman who was wearing a linen dress made in the style of the times with a bustle. Ordinarily, the bustle was built over a wire basket to make the bulge at the back of the skirt, but sometimes cardboard substitutes were used. When this girl's linen dress got wet, she could see that her bustle was made of a substitute material. At first, we kept our reverent attitude. Then someone choked, another person giggled, and soon the whole crowd of witnesses shook with laughter. The cardboard framework for the bustle was a circus poster. And across the back of the velvet skirt, we could plainly read the words, guess what? The greatest show on earth. And that's just as women's undergarments reflected certain trends through the years, so did their nightwear. The gowns we will see now, however, are of styles that have endured for many years, and we still see gowns made like these today. Jenny Smith is wearing a simple summer night dress of a tatter's tail cotton check. It has embroidery on the sleeves and on the neck. It is very comfortable and loose, much like that dress she's carrying. Jenny Burton's gown is also loose-fitting and of cotton, but the lace trim on the collar makes it a bit fancier than the previous one. The long banded sleeves make this an appropriate gown for all seasons and for young and old alike. Amanda Shore is wearing a gown similar to our first gown, but this one is trimmed with bric-a-brac. What completes this nighttime ensemble is the bed jacket. Our bed jacket is most unusual, as you will see as Amanda turns around and shows the back. It's made from a muslin mottled white flour sack, which celebrates liberty with the drawing of the Statue of Liberty. We'd like to thank Lorene Lambert from the Tennessee Department of Tourism for lending us this unusual garment. Our final gown in this group is worn by Jana Hollifield. It is an elegant percale gown which fastens by means of a side button placket. The lace trim is designed in a paisley pattern, which also appears on the flared cuffs. And you will notice that the hem is also trimmed with lace. Thank you, girls. Jackie Fitz is wearing a family heirloom. And this family heirloom belonged to her grandmother, Fanny Gibson. Jackie is here representing Wynwood. Wynwood was built in 1828 and is perhaps the largest log structure still standing in the area. As the century changed, so did the fashions. Alicia Redmond is our turn of the century schoolmarm. Her black skirt has simple lines with button trim. Her cotton batiste blouse is decorated with embroidery, tagging, and lace, and isn't it exquisite? The high neck and ruffled sleeves give an elegant look to this outfit. Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro has a working collection of historical clothing dating from the 1860s to the 1980s. The collection, located in the Human Science Department, is used to allow students the opportunity to see, touch, and learn from actual pieces of history. The fashion merchandise program uses these garments to illustrate clothing construction in years past, as well as clothing silhouettes and trends used in design. Local Gallatin residents have made donations to the MTSU collection. Skylar Carr Lamprey is wearing a dress from about the turn of the century, and it is from the MTSU collection. It is of white cotton with a Peter Pan grandmother as a young woman. Her grandmother is Florence Finch, who died in 1974 at the age of 80. Jenna Bivens is wearing a turn-of-the-century morning gown, which was made and worn by Nancy Somerville Butler Cook, great-grandmother of Laureen Lambert, Tennessee Department of Tourism. It features Amish styling, button pockets, and a sailor-type collar. With this one-piece dress, Jenna is wearing a slat bonnet. Well, then hemlines began to climb in the early part of this century, as we can see in this 1910 outfit, which Brooke Wood is wearing. Brooke's navy skirt is trimmed with a fringe braid on the side and gives an illusion of a wrap skirt. Her cotton batiste blouse wraps in front, and the ruffled front creates a small sailor collar in the back. The sleeves are three-quarter raglan, and the banded back of the blouse makes it easy to tuck in. Underneath the blouse, she is wearing an elegant lace-trimmed camisole. Then came World War I. The Great War arrives. Patrick Drysdale and Todd Jenkins are our World War I soldiers today, and aren't they wonderful? Wearing uniforms from our own extensive collection of military items at the museum. Hold it just a minute, boys. Let's don't move too fast. Let this lady see. They're olive wool uniforms, and I bet they're hot. And doughboy hats remind us of many of the images we have seen from over there. Also, they are carrying authentic helmets. Patrick's uniform belonged to Henry Burnley of Sumner County. After the war came the roaring 20s, and roaring they did, changing all of our fashion. Hemlines went up, waistlines went down, sleeves disappeared, as did fitted waistlines. Our next two dresses illustrate this extremely popular and influential fashion period exquisitely. Amy Shoemaker is wearing a gold Georgette flapper dress with brown velvet applique trim. The dropped waist flows into a shared skirt to give a loose, easy look to this dress. The dress closes on the side with snaps, or even though zippers had been invented by that time, snaps could be hidden more easily. Her unusual hat is a brown velvet cloche, constructed with peaks pulled down and bows. Angie Cook is wearing a rust silk crepe flapper dress, which features a beige chiffon embroidered top. How about that hat, girls? With a very simple neckline. The embroidery of olive and tan thread adorns the armholes as well as the front and back of the dress. The front embroidery draws the eye to the shirring at the front of the dress, which allows the wearer easy movement. You've got it. Our next dress is from the MTSU selection and is a flapper dress of the 1920s worn by Joanna Carr. This brown garment has an underdress with long sleeves. The overdress is needed and has long tassels at the side openings. There is no waistline, as was the trend at the time. And this dress was donated by Ann Haddish of Murfreesboro. It was purchased in Erie, Pennsylvania, a long time ago. The 30s brought changes once again in fashion. Gone were the roaring 20s and the flapper styles. And dresses of the 30s became more fitted, as we see in our next dresses. Melissa Stark is wearing a black lace dress which features princess styling. The front of the dress features grosgrain ribbon with clusters of three-covered buttons, adding a very simple decorative pattern to the elegant lace of the dress. Her black velvet cloche is reminiscent of the 20s, however, and off the dress nicely. Maybe some of you have worn dresses like this, okay? The 30s were also an important time in the life of one of Gallatin's very own, whom we now want to recognize, and whose collection of gowns belongs to the Sumner County Museum. You see before you Lisa McComb wearing a rust crepe evening gown, which is ruffled across the front and back neckline and on the hemline. The dress is weighted in back so that it will drape and accentuate the wearer's back. The lines of the gown are simple and elegant. With this gown, Lisa is carrying the beaded bag, handkerchief, and the number 14, which were carried in 1934 by our own Gallatin native, Elvira Moore, now Elvira Moore Neal. The contest held at the State Fairgrounds resulted in Miss Moore's winning the Miss Tennessee title that year. We are honored to have with us today as our guest of honor, Mrs. Elvira Moore Neal. Would you please stand? Miss Tennessee, 1934. Collection of evening gowns have been donated to the museum, and we're going to show you some of her gowns. She was a mighty skinny lady, let me tell you. Oh. Alicia Redmond is wearing an A-Crew ladies' evening gown, which features a separate jacket. The jacket features a shawl collar, flared cuffs, and an ornate clasp. The dress features a low-cut back and is sleeveless. And when we asked Alicia if she could take off the jacket and show us the back, we decided not to do that all the way because it was very hard to get into the dress. But it does have a low-cut back. Note the unusual feature, however, of tiny wings which overhang the shoulders, creating a small cap. The trumpet skirt allows the wearer graceful movement. Lovely. Lisa Chandler is wearing a gold lace and taffeta gown, which features netting over the skirt. The fitted sleeves and slightly dropped waistline of the lace top give the illusion of a jacket and emphasizes the center front and covered buttons of the dress. Jill Colquitt wears another evening gown. Now, was she not skinny? Look at this. We were so fortunate to find Jill. That's wonderful. Stand right there, Jill, this time. This one of beige crepe with a gold clay knit top. Notice that the simple straight lines of the dress, which accentuate the wearer's slim figure. The bateau neckline is weighted so that it will hang properly. The eye is drawn to the V-neck in the back with a focus on the huge bow. Thank you. Julie Cook wears a shorter satin gown in a rich purple. The sleeves of the dress are actually part of the jacket, which is stitched at the neckline in a tight, smock effect. When the jacket is removed, however, we see that the back of the dress maintains the same smocking and fullness to create back interest. The self-belt emphasizes the fullness of the gorge skirt. The third and final dress from the MTSU collection is worn by Scarlett Carr-Lamprey. This dress has the silhouette of the new look of the 1940s, popularized by Christian Dior. The dress is of turquoise and teal lace. It has the tight and matching belt. This dress was donated by our model herself, Scarlett Harlan. Although most of the gowns, many of the gowns we have just seen are from the 40s, most of the fashions were not so elegant. Shirley Stanley wears a simple lavender print cotton dress. Its V-neck is accentuated by the white organdy ruffled collar and ruffles on the cap sleeves. The loose fit reminds us of earlier styles with the dropped waist, ruffled hip, and eye-catching bow. The 40s unfortunately also brought another war, which influenced fashions in many ways. Women went to work, often in slacks, and adopted many of the tailored styles of the men. Most men wearing uniforms. Here we have Brandon Smith wearing a native officer's uniform. This lightweight wool uniform belonged to Marvin Ferris, who saw action in Africa, Italy, and France on a minesweeper. Our other World War II uniform is that of an Air Force non-commissioned officer, and it belonged to Frank Shaw. The blue wool is of the type still used by the Air Force. Notice the style of the short jacket, which came to be called the Eisenhower jacket. It is worn by Matt Warren. Lisa McComb is wearing a dress of this period also. This rose in navy crepe, styled with a flapper dress design, was worn by Ina Rose Smith to her high school graduation in 1945. Ina Rose Smith was the mother of our own Jane Shepherd, museum director, and the grandmother of our model. Isn't it nice? Martin Spears brings us to the 60s with his Vietnam War uniform. He is wearing khaki fatigues, so familiar to us, and is carrying an M16 rifle. This is also a part of the museum collection. Women have always expressed their elegance in formal attire, and here to end our review of fashion, we have a contrast of some 40 years. Stephanie Redmond wears a red taffeta strapless, short formal. The tulip bodice in full skirt emphasize the small waist of the wearer. This dress is also from the Neal collection and was worn in the early 50s. In 1992, what are we wearing to proms and formals today? What will museum collections display in another 40 years? Perhaps something like our last model, Amy Martin, is wearing. Amy wears her 1992 prom dress, short, totally covered in sequins, colored and outlined in the style of a French painter. From the earliest days of the frontier to the present, Middle Tennesseans have expressed themselves in the fashions of the day, and we are happy to have been able to present these garments to you today. Spur of the moment, and we think she's done an excellent job. And we're all just so eager to know who all these people are that we have told you about today. So we're going to introduce each of them, and they're all going to come back and stand on the stage, and then maybe you can get a picture of the whole group if you would like it. Don Wright is a longtime historian and reenactor. He is an award-winning author with 3 novels to his credit: The Woodsman, The Cactus, and The Last Plantation. reading that. Jerry Below. Jerry Below is a materials handler at Sumner Regional Medical Center. He's relatively new to the world of reenactors, but enjoys it immensely. He also works hard to help maintain the historical site of Wynwood in Castellian Springs and sings in the Gallatin Community Chorus. Billy Green is a trained blacksmith and has been so for 9 years. He did iron work on a flatboat for the Homecoming '86 celebration and traveled down river some 70 miles in the same flatboat. For 19 years, Billy has been employed at GE, where he works with robotics and produces nearly microscopic parts. Now that sounds really neat. And then comes home and plays blacksmith. How about that? Wesley Green is Billy's son, is 6, and he attends College Heights Christian Academy. Last night, Wesley graduated from kindergarten. Bobby Faye Jackson Ramsey is the wife of James Robert Ramsey, mother of 2 daughters, and coaches soccer for the Gallatin Soccer League. She participates in numerous family activities and encourages her husband in his clock business. The facility we are in today is named for her late father-in-law, Robert Ramsey, who was also co-founder of the Sumner County Museum. Donna Wilson and Karen Crocker. Donna Wilson, where did they Donna Hinsley? Okay. Then we shall go on to Robin Smith. Is the daughter of Linda Smith of Gallatin. Robin plays soccer, sings in Junior Varsity Girls Chorus, and has done some performing. She also enjoys reading and sports. Artie Nelson is the son of Burkett and Diane Nelson of Gallatin. Artie is a junior at Gallatin High School and a very active young man. He's varsity soccer, Key Club, Beta Club, International Club, Church of Christ Youth Group, and Greater Atlanta Ambassadors. Artie enjoys water skiing and rebuilding old cars. Amanda Short. Ida Short of Gallatin. She attends Gallatin Middle School and is an 8th grader. Amanda is a volunteer at the Sumner County Museum and enjoys working with computers. Amy Shoemaker. Kurt and Donna Shoemaker of Gallatin. Amy attends Gallatin Middle School and is an 8th grader. She's active in the youth group at the Nazarene Church and is a volunteer at the Sumner County Museum, as well as being on the school newspaper staff. Sarah Collins is the daughter of Fred and Nancy Collins of Gallatin. She is a sophomore at Gallatin High School, where she maintains a 4.6 grade average. And fashion design. Christine Nitch is the daughter of Greg and Mary Ann Nitch of Gallatin. She's a sophomore at the high school and a member of the Student Council, Beta Club, Key Club, and the Greater Atlanta Ambassadors. She plays tennis and enjoys reading and running. Is the daughter of J.J. and Sharon Redmond of Gallatin. Stephanie is a junior at Gallatin High School and is a member of the Key Club, Cotillion, and Greater Atlanta Ambassadors.
I just have to do that because I'm the one that takes care of it.
Didn't I say Greater Gallatin?
Oh, you call them Greater Atlanta? She's more Atlanta.
See, I do that, you know. Well, you know, Sharon Burton of Gallatin. She is a sophomore at Gallatin High School, where she is a member of the band. She's also a member of Greater Gallatin Ambassador and enjoys reading, golfing, and crafts. Jana Hollyfield is the daughter of Floyd and Sandra Hollyfield of Gallatin. She is a senior at Gallatin High School, is a member of Beta Club, Key Club, Cotillion Club, and performs in various activities at the Gallatin High School. Jenny Smith is the daughter of Linda Smith. Jenny attends Union Elementary in Gallatin and was most recently on a tournament-winning soccer team. Alicia Redmond is the daughter of J.J. and Sharon Redmond of Gallatin, and she attends Gallatin Middle School. Alicia did not volunteer to model today, but was one of many draftees. She swims competitively, and the gracefulness gained in the pool certainly applies today. Skylar Doreen Carr Lamprey is the daughter of Patricia Butler Carr of Gallatin. She graduated from Gallatin High School with honors in 1887. She graduated from Middle Tennessee State University this spring with a major in fashion merchandising and a minor in historic preservation. She currently resides in Murfreesboro with her husband, David Lamprey, and is employed as the visual merchandiser at People's Department Store in Murfreesboro. Jenna Bivens is the daughter of Barney and Judy Bivens of Gallatin. Jenna is a junior at Gallatin High School, where she participates in the student council, cheerleading, chorus, and swim team. Brooke Wooten is the daughter of Bill and Jane Wooten of Gallatin. Brooke is a freshman at Gallatin High School and is actively involved in cheerleading, tennis, Key Club, Greater Gallatin Ambassadors, and the United Methodist Youth Group. Brooke enjoys gymnastics and reading. Joanna Carr is the daughter of Patricia Carr of Gallatin. She is a junior at Gallatin High School and a member of the International Club, Cotillion, and French Club. Joanna really enjoys oldie movies, cries at the end of nearly every one. Jackie Fitz is a lifelong resident of Castellion Springs. Has Jackie left? And she does volunteer work at the Sumner County Museum and takes alterations in sewing. Todd Jenkins is the son of Scott and Sharon Jenkins of Gallatin. He's a junior at Gallatin High School, where he participates in Beta Club, French Club, and the tennis team. He's a member of the First Baptist Church Youth Group and Greater Gallatin Ambassadors. That these young people who have helped us so graciously today do lots of different things. And isn't that wonderful? That's so good. Patrick Ragsdale, son of Harry and Patty Ragsdale of Gallatin, attends Gallatin High School as well. And that's all I have about Patrick. I'm sure he does a lot. Angie Cook is the daughter of Ricky and Susan Cook of Gallatin. She plays high school softball, enjoys cheerleading, and is a member of Greater Gallatin Ambassadors. The daughter of Preston and Jan Stark of Gallatin. She is a sophomore at Gallatin High School, where she's involved in many organizations, Beta Club, Key Club. She is a member of Greater Gallatin Ambassadors. Lisa McCone is the daughter of Kit and Rita McCone of Chapel Hill and is the of Jane Shepherd, our director-curator of the museum. She enjoys cheerleading, slumber parties, and writing. She is an 8th grader at Forest High School in Chapel Hill. Lisa Chandler is a recent graduate of Western Kentucky University with a major in math. Her mom volunteered her for this show today, but she came and did it very well. Jill Colquitt is the daughter of Bill and Betty Colquitt of Gallatin. She's a sophomore at Gallatin High School and maintains a 4-point average. Jill enjoys sports, is a member of Key Club, Beta Club, and the Greater Gallatin Ambassadors. She reads poetry and making and selling jewelry. Brenda Lyle was not here, right? Julie Cook is the daughter of Robert and Elizabeth Cook of Gallatin. She attends Gallatin High School and is a member of the Key Club and the Greater Gallatin Ambassadors. Julie enjoys music and photography. Shirley Stanley and her husband Richard are fairly new residents of Gallatin. As a very young teenager, Shirley dropped out of high school. In more recent years, she returned to Gallatin and earned her high school diploma. She went through her graduation exercises just last night. Shirley, present her with this rose and a word of encouragement as she plans to enter college this fall. Brandon Smith is the son of Phil and Ann Smith of Gallatin. Brandon is a sophomore at Gallatin High School where he plays soccer and is a member of Beta Club and Key Club. Jason Bradley? No, we've got someone else that filled in for Jason. Jason Bradley? Where is Jason? You didn't know? But she wants you up here anyway, Jason. Jason's been back there tossing chairs and doing all kinds of things. He's helped us. He is the son of Eugene and Teresa Bradley. He attends Gallatin High School, where he's a member of the band, Key Club, and the Greater Gallatin Ambassadors. Jason enjoys swimming, reading, and tennis. Matt Warren is the son of Richard and Susan Warren and attends Gallatin High School. Matt plays football and baseball and is a member of Key Club and the Greater Gallatin Ambassadors. Amy Martin is the daughter of Peggy Martin of Gallatin. Amy attends Gallatin High School, where she is a member of the Student Council, Tri-High-Y, Key Club, and Girls Battalion. Amy enjoys swimming, gymnastics, and being outdoors. Amy is not taking the two, for which this narrator and museum director, Jane Shepherd, will accept full responsibility. I don't know what Mom wanted her to wear. It must not have been this cute thing. Martin Spears, son of Charles and Mary Martin Spears of Gallatin, attends Gallatin High School. He is a member of Key Club, Tennessee Tomorrow Club, and the Greater Gallatin Ambassadors. Martin also plays sports on several school teams. Now, we have John Creasy, who played our part of Mr. Trousdale, Governor Trousdale, is a teacher at Westmoreland High School, and he is writing a book about northern Sumner County. And I met him several weeks ago down at the archives. So we're waiting for that book to come out. Marsha Talbot Gerby is a fashion merchandising student at Middle Tennessee State University. She's participating in a second historic clothing project in Murfreesboro to be held in October at Oakland's Mansion. And then I was told if I did this that my head would come off. But none of this could have been accomplished today without the direction and hard work of our own director, curator at the museum, Jane Shepherd. Jane. But we especially thank you for coming today for this, our very first fashion